So on the day, the Dodgers, clearly realizing they had done perhaps the stupidest thing in baseball ever, they only had 2 members of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence show up 2 hours before the game, nearly empty stadium. People showed up for the game later, but they didn't show up for this. And they stood there and they didn't do any of their routines while they were honored, for what, I don't know, but they were honored, while thousands of Catholics literally protested outside, and they listened to speeches, including one by that great Catholic Rabbi Michael Barclay, right? He's being Jewish, and he showed up, and this is what he said, cut 3.
And if you're anti-Catholic, you're anti-religion, you're anti-God. I got a problem with that.
All right, so the answer to the quiz, which values were being transposed, is they transposed inclusion and morality. The people outside, these thousands of protesters who showed up, they're cheering a rabbi who doesn't believe in Jesus Christ, and he is showing up to speak to Catholics who have in the past been quite cruel to the Jews at times. And they're cheering each other and they're working together. They're including one another because they are standing under the umbrella of godliness and morality. If you go for morality, you get the inclusion thrown in because you include people who are doing the right thing, even if they disagree with you. But if you go for inclusion first, if you make inclusion a value, something else happens. Now, I hate Hitler and Nazi comparisons because we in America have had it pretty good and we've never seen anything here like the Nazis. But here's a comparison that I think is really valid. During the Holocaust, the gays were persecuted. I mean, the Holocaust was an attempt to slaughter the Jews. That's what it was. The Holocaust was an attempt to wipe the Jews out, and it was almost successful, almost wiped the Jews out of Europe for sure. But there were also gay people persecuted. I think about 15,000 of them were killed, and they had to wear a pink triangle, just like the Jews had to wear a yellow star. So please don't think that I'm saying that the Nazis were gay or that there were a lot of gays in the Nazis. But when Hitler was starting out, he had a group of paramilitary thugs who protected him from protesters. They were called the SA, which was initials standing for the German word for stormtroopers, right? And they were run by a gay guy, Ernst Röhm, by a homosexual. Everybody knew he was homosexual. He had written about it. Hitler knew he was homosexual. So even though the Nazis were ostensibly against homosexuals, they had this SA, which was loaded with homosexuals. Now, Hitler takes power, and by the way, the communists, who were the guys who also had their stormtroopers, there were communist stormtroopers and Nazi stormtroopers, so it's sort of like Portland, Oregon. But the communists were theoretically in favor of gay rights, but they were only too happy to continually accuse the SA of being rife with gay people. So it had nothing to do with what you believed. It had to do with the way people were behaving. So Hitler rises to power. He needs to get rid of the SA, and he now has got the SS, who are closer to him and people he trusts. And so one night, it was called the Night of the Long Knives, he had Ernst Röhm and many of his followers wiped out. And at that point, he said, well, they were homosexuals, right? Then suddenly he became anti-gay. Now, here's my question. What if the LA Dodgers had invited the SA because they were gay to Dodger Stadium? It's a fair comparison. I mean, it's like saying we'd be sitting here going, yeah, but they're Nazis. And he goes, yes, but it's Pride Night. Yeah, but they're Nazis. Yeah, but they're homosexuals. It's Pride Night. It's inclusion. It's Pride Night. No. Unite. The thing that you include is morality. That's what you include, and that's what you do. And so they didn't understand that. When you just put inclusion above everything else, you're going to wind up celebrating these people who are a hate group. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are not a gay rights group. They're not a gay, give us, let us live, tolerate us group. I'm totally tolerant. I understand that people have all kinds of sexual deviations and all that stuff. And if they keep them to themselves and they're living a moral life otherwise, it's just not my business. I don't want the government going into their bedrooms and bothering them. I don't want them being arrested for who they are. That has nothing to do with it. If they're not hurting people and they're involved in consensual and loving relationships, I want nothing. I don't want to know about it, basically. But these people were hateful. They were it's just like inviting Nazis who happen to be gay and saying, well, they're gay. It's Pride Night. We're giving them an award. It's nuts.